Cobra fans, this is a quick video preview of my Classic Revival Cobra replica. I'm going to give you a bit of a tour of the chassis underneath, the body and a couple of other things. As you can see, I've done a few things since already, like put the windscreen on, mount the roll bars, etc. I'll point out a couple of things, and this will be the first video in a series that I make as I assemble this car. It will take probably a few years to get this car on the road. And in this first one I'll just show you a few points on the chassis. This is one of the more popular kits in Australia, and this car I've had since August 2011. This is about the 5th iteration design of the Classic Revival chassis, 4th or 5th. This is what's known as the round tube, and let's get into the tour. So, starting here at the front, you can see some suspension mounts and things there. As you can see, the guts of the chassis is really two 4-inch round tubes which run pretty much down the length of the chassis. See if I can get under there and show you underneath. All the structural components of the chassis, by the way, are high tensile steel. Various bits underneath, like those couple of bits of box you can see there, are not high tensile, but the structural components all are. The mounts here for the front suspension, as you can see, the front suspension is custom, and I'll make another video that explains front and rear suspension. The steering rack is already in there, as you can see. Steering rack, the chassis is built to take the rack from a VP Commodore power steering. The radiator is also in there, as you can see. I'll give you another look in the engine bay in a minute. Moving down to the rear of the car, you can see the rear section of the frame and chassis. The 4-inch round tube stops there, and you can see the cross member, what have you, to hold in the diff and the rear suspension components. I'll make another video, as I said, that'll explain all how this goes together. The rear suspension on this car is mostly VE Commodore with some customization. Up the top here, you can see the mounts for the roll bars. These roll bars are functional, they're not just for looks. The chassis is built to accommodate these, and there is a third leg, which is down here on the floor at the moment, which goes through the boot and mounts onto the chassis. I've also got the fuel tank mounted in here, as you can see, although that has to come out again to do a few other things. Pay no attention to this thing down here. This is just a bike wind trainer. In the boot, I'm just storing various bits and pieces in here, like bits of suspension components and what have you. But you can see the mounting bracket there for the quick jacks. All this comes in place already, by the way. On this Classic Revival kit, you don't have to do any chassis or body modifications. You can see this access port at the back, which needs to have a panel fabricated, and that allows you to get access to roll bar mountings, and that bracket there in the middle is for the seat belt retractor. The bracket in there, you can see, is built into the chassis to take harness mount points, and this is also in the back here where the battery will go. There's a panel bracket that's built into the chassis to take that. Moving around to the inside of the car, you can see the tub manner in which this CR body is built. That tub is all one piece, as you can see down there in the footwell. It's got this moulding cast into it there for the handbrake mounting. Over there you can see the door posts, which are bolted down and glassed in, and that's part of the hoop structure, which you can't see behind this cardboard dash panel, which is just a template I'm mucking around with. The windscreen mounts up under here as well, and we've got the pedal box in there, which is just dummied in position for the moment. The CR is set up for dual master cylinder, set up for brakes. Going forward into the engine bay, you can see the steering rack. You See this rather substantial cross brace which goes between the front suspension mounts. You can see the radiator there I've already mounted in place. Down here you get a good view of the round tubes, this cross member which is there, and the engine mounts which are already placed in position to suit LS series motors. Come around the front, you can just have a look in the front how this is all put together. These brackets and what have you is all part of the chassis. Pretty happy with the quality of this chassis. It's a good unit. Over from this side you can see the holes are already cut. They're cut by Ian at Classic Revival, by the way. He cuts those for you because the pedal box mounts through those holes as well. So this car is set up for dual master cylinders for brakes, so separate cylinders for front and rear, and obviously a clutch cylinder. And that boss that's cast in there is where the steering arm will come out down to the VP Commodore power steering rack. Looking down the tunnel here, you can see a cross member mount, another cross brace there, which is 100mm round tube, and the cross member mounting for gearbox. You can see this these chassis cross members are very, very hefty, and this chassis will be incredibly stiff as a result of that. And you can see how Ian has done the mountings of the bonnet. The boot's done in a similar fashion, and those hinges hang off this little round cross brace hoop, which is easy to take off. It's just those two bolts there that you can see, and there's two on the other side. You take those out and that hoop will come out, and obviously you can take the bonnet off with just those bolts there. I've had this engine bay painted, by the way, by Ian when I bought the car. I don't really want to have to bolt the engine in and all the associated ancillaries and then have to take it out again to paint it. So I decided to have the engine bay painted in advance. It's just a satin black colour. You can see more mounting here for how I put the windscreen in, and I was able to achieve a pretty good fit, I think, of that. There's more details and photos of that on my blog if you want to have a bit more of a read. Well, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. This is the first. I'll make several more as time goes on, but I'll make some that show the suspension going together, brakes and the interior work and other interesting stuff that's good to look at on YouTube. Thanks for watching.